So what makes a country in Victoria 3 hard? Well, there's a couple of contributing factors. One is terrible technology. For example, this country starts out with only three technologies. Another thing would be being a subject. For example, like these guys over here. Being a subject, like if you're a puppet specifically, you can't declare wars, which means it's going to be very hard to expand. You're going to need to get independence from your overlord. And the other criteria is just like how good is your area to expand in? What cultures do you have? And like for example, for these guys over here, you can't make it to the coast without going through uncolonized land. So that's like really bad for your areas to expand in. Now, before we get into the top five, I've got a couple of honorable mentions, starting with Sikkim, which did not quite reach the top five due to the fact that you can uh, cheese blow up India by declaring an interest in South China and then uh, blow up the EIC. But if you couldn't do that, the fact that you're stuck between the British East India Company and China means you're in a really tough position that I don't really know how you get out of. Our next dishonorable mention is Herat, which is very often attacked by Persia, so it's in a very precarious position. And if you try to attack any of your neighbors, Persia will sway in to take your big state of Herat. So the only strategy I found to win as these guys is you actually just release this subject here, which makes it so they aren't allowed to sway in for return Herat because there's already a war goal on you, so they can't take your only state if there's already a war goal against you. And with that, we're gonna get into the top five. So Uly Zhuz starts out as a Russian protectorate, and after around 12 years, the Kazakh revolt will trigger, which turns your country into the Kazakhs. And the only way I can find to win the war against Russia is to become a major power so they simply aren't allowed to make you a protectorate. So the war, you can just capitulate and nothing happens to you. But getting to that is somewhat difficult, and their tech situation isn't too great anyway. So they get to be in fifth place. Now, in fourth place, we have Touggourt, the nation in South Algeria here. Now, this nation also has, relatively bad starting tech, although this is like tied for best of all the countries on the leaderboard, I think, of bottom five. So what you want to do is the only way you're going to be able to get out as these guys is either France decks on Constantine and you somehow manage to occupy it, or you become friends with Egypt. You need to be at plus 50 by the time or around the time that the truce between Ottomans and Egypt run out. Then deck for the Libyan desert and call Egypt in for become tributary, and then you like get all of Libya after adding more war goals. But overall, this nation is in a really bad position. Even if you conquer Tripolitania, you're still going to be landlocked, except like because the Egyptian AI is likely to give you your own market. So overall, it's going to be pretty tough. I'm putting the Caucasian Imamate in third place, which is because they have relatively good tech, and they have this journal entry, which gives you a nice bonus. However, you're completely surrounded by Russia, and they are going to fight you relatively quickly. So what you need to do is you can put an interest in Persia, and you can sway in to get this little bit of Herat when Persia attacks Herat, and then you can like start expanding out here to get free. And because of your good tech, you're in a much better ability to expand than most countries, despite the fact that you will have low market access. In second place, we've got the Victorian Lake Nations, which I've all grouped together. Otherwise, the entire list would just be the Victorian Lake Nations, except for first place. Specifically, Uganda, which I've decided is the hardest one because it has the worst culture, and expanding to take over this whole area is pretty easy anyway. So I think the culture is the most important factor between all these guys, which makes them the worst one. Um, like the problems with these guys are, the worst tech ever, no ability to expand without first researching colonization, which is going to take like 9 years or something. Get 8 years to research colonization, and then you still need to research admiralty to make it so you can actually build boats. It's like really bad, but not quite as bad as the first place nation. Now, finally, we have Indian Territory, which is quite obviously the hardest country in Victoria 3, in my opinion. They start out as an American puppet, and it's almost impossible to break free. You're like I managed to do it in 1.7.0, but that was back when like the US made basically zero conscripts. Now basically your only hope is to hope that the UK gets into a war with the USA so you can get UK to support your independence, and then you also need to find a way to get Liberty Desire up. I really don't have a clue on how you do this in 1.7.6 because like I even have some games where USA just declares to annex you in like the first couple months of the game, and if that happens, you have to improve relations, which if you improve relations, you're kind of hurting your ability to gain Liberty Desire. So things just seem like they're in a terrible position here, and I'm not even sure really how you do this. I've been trying to get a run on these guys going for a super long time, and I just can't get it going.